Shout out to listeners in Belgium.
Who the fuck is that?
I don't fucking know. Brussels.
Wait, you can monitor your listeners?
I mean, we can know where they're at and like the demographic as far as like gender, age range,
like
and location.
Most of these make sense. Like UK, there's Mildenhall.
Yeah.
Japan makes sense. Germany makes sense. Turkey makes sense. Canada,
I don't know.
South Korea can make a little sense. Belgium and Ireland.
I don't know what the fuck's happening in Ireland, Belgium.
We're a international podcast.
That's what's up.
It's no big. Dang, people dig Apple Podcasts.
Everyone has a fucking iPhone.
Holy hell.
Yep.
What the hell is Other?
Nokia?
The brick?
Yeah, the bricks. They play podcasts.
Maybe
sometimes.
like laptops. Because it says phone and Android.
YouTube.
Welcome to Almost Agreeable.
Almost Agreeable.
With your hosts, Chris Nellison and Ed Harris. Hang around and listen to opinions on sports, movies, music, and whatever else pops in our head.
All right, and welcome back to yet another episode of Almost Agreeable. We're still here. We're still talking.
We're still here.
Still around. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. With me, as always, is Ed. And we're bringing back another guest to the show. Andrew is in studio with us to continue our delve into the MCU, right? We finished off the last episode with the first Avenger, I think. And then now we're at Avengers.
Yeah, with Captain America, the first Avenger. It's always a confusing thing because yes, it is Captain America, the first Avenger.
I guess I'll lead with the first Cap solo film.
Yeah.
And then that takes us right into where we are today, right? With the Avengers, the film that kind of, I mean, these standalone films were good, and then everyone was kind of hesitant to see all these characters in one film. Like, how are they going to do that? How are they going to have so many egos and personalities in a film and make it, you know, a good film? And it actually was amazing. Like, I watched it recently and forgot how good it actually is.
Super good. That's it.
Okay. All right, that's the episode.
All right, we'll call it. But no, it is really good. Like, we've been talking about this. I can't think of another medium where this has happened. I mean, except for, you know, comics and shit, but like...
Animated series is... And those are series.
Those are series. So bringing together all of these different actors and solo characters into one specific movie is kind of unprecedented as this whole thing goes.
No, yeah, big time, because like you had said, it's never really been done before and been super successful. And I think what makes it as good as it is the villain, right? So not only do you have Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, and our mortal human beings, Black Widow and Hawkeye, but you have this villain who we are familiar with from the first Thor movie, and this is Tom Hiddleston's coming out party. Because in Thor, he wasn't really that heard of, but you were like, okay, yeah, he's the villain, like, and he's a good villain. But in this one is where you were like, damn, Loki, fuck, this dude's the worst.
And it's kind of what we've been talking about with everything else. It really expanded on the villains in the series. All of the villains, like we've been talking about, have been fantastic in all these other movies previous. Except for, I don't know, some people didn't like Red Skull as much. Maybe some people didn't like Whiplash as much. I thought they were great.
I was a big fan of Red Skull.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
this goes with cast. It goes back to casting.
Yeah.
Right? You had Hugo Weaving playing Red Skull, but in here we revisit, like, with Tom Hiddleston as the Loki character. And he's a different Loki in this movie than he was in Thor. Like, in Thor, I feel like he wasn't as, like... He's a lot more quips in this one. He's a lot more clever. His snide remarks are a lot more predominant, like, when he's talking, as opposed into Thor, he is a wounded child, essentially.
Yeah.
Because he's been passed over, like, his whole life for being the next king of Asgard. So in this one, he's you can see he's matured, and kind of found his role in what to do with the rest of his life is just be a piece of shit.
Quote unquote matured. Maybe not matured, but he's definitely evolved.
Well, not
into a bigger piece of shit.
That's a better word. But when I say mature, I don't mean he became an adult. I mean whatever he was going for, it matured into the villain he became. If that makes more sense. But I guess evolved is a better word. What do you think? You were in it.
I agree with you. I think I like what you said about like this was Loki's coming out party to be a villain, but at the same time he was if I remember correctly, the post-credit scene in that movie, you got to see Thanos.
Yes.
And he was kind of under contract, if I remember. Like he sent Loki to do that,
right?
And then it didn't exactly work out as planned. So I like the antagonist role that he played, but the way they did basically the villain script, it kind of like left you wanting more, like what's about to, what's coming next.
What's the bigger, the puppet
like
behind the strings.
There's always a bigger
the puppeteer
fish
behind the strings. And I guess, because during the film, like as Loki is terrorizing Earth, he does tell Thor, he's like, once I went into my exile, I saw things and did things and learned things and have learned what real power is. And it kind of makes you wonder like where exactly he did go to when he fell off the Rainbow Bridge in Thor.
Yeah, because that's the last thing we see of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he falls off the Rainbow Bridge, and then we see him now, in the beginning of the Avengers movie, just coming through this portal in the Tesseract.
Correct.
When the Tesseract, it just awakens, quote-unquote, and then we see Loki come through that and just start...
That fucking evil smile.
Wrecking fools.
He was wrecking fools, because now he's got, the scepter, which, again, I want to kind of just spit back to characters and stuff. We didn't really hit on it during Thor episode, but Hawkeye is introduced in that film.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes, maybe, if that. And this is where we kind of get to have a conversation with Hawkeye right in the beginning, while the Tesseract is, to quote Dr. Selvig, misbehaving. We get to meet Hawkeye. He's up keeping an eye on things. He has his conversation with Nick Fury. And you're like, okay, this guy seems like a formidable ally. I'm glad to have him. And then, bam, Loki's like, nah, I'm gonna mind control him. He's gonna be a villain too.
He's mine now. Yeah, so we get to see him. We're like you said, we're excited to kind of see what he can do. Yeah. We'd seen him in a previous movie in a very short amount of time, and then all of a sudden, well, we do see what he can do, just against the good guys.
Oh, he's a badass, and it is unfortunate that he is under mind control from Loki's scepter, which this, much like what's happening in Captain America: The First Avenger. Not all is as it seems with the item at hand. So with the Tesseract in Captain America, for the first hour and a half of the movie, you're thinking that the Tesseract is just this energy source that they're trying to harness to create this technology and weapons. And it turns out that it's like the Space Stone. We don't know that term just yet, but we know that the Red Skull disappeared through a portal while he was handling it. And this, familiar, like in the relative, like with the scepter, he's controlling people's minds with it. He's shooting shit out of it. So there's more than to this meets the eye with this scepter.
I was hoping you were going to kind of get into that. Like I didn't want to just start going off not knowing what you guys plan to talk about, but I think one of the coolest things about the Marvel movies is, the first time you saw Avengers, right? You didn't know that you were witnessing the Space Stone or the Mind Stone. Like you didn't know that. I mean, I guess you could read comic books and still know that, but
right.
For the movie, the plot of the movie, like you didn't know that these two big components were there. So that later on you figure it out, you go back and watch it again, it makes it that much cooler.
It does, and that's why it's so cool, like on rewatch,
yep.
Like you just said, like because as we're doing these episodes, we're rewatching the films, and with that, like I can't agree more. It's like you don't have any idea coming in, especially if you haven't read the comics. I think a majority of people that watch the films like weren't as familiar with that stuff as other people were, and so no, I didn't know that there was just a fucking Infinity Stone in the scepter.
Nah.
And so yeah, he takes over the mind of Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. That whole shield base is essentially destroyed with the portal collapsing. Nick Fury escapes, Cubby Smolder's character, Agent Hill escapes, and Coulson escapes. And they say, what are we going to do?
Yeah. Well, he took, Hawkeye under his control, but then a big part of it, he took Eric Selvig under control.
Oh, that's right, he did. And he took the Tesseract.
He never could have been able to, do what he was going to do later in the movie without this genius
The
doctor.
scientist.
And I
Yeah.
love that he was brought back too. And that goes back to a post-credit scene from Thor where they introduce Selvig to the Tesseract and Loki's like in his head.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, he takes Selvig, he takes Hawkeye, and then he escapes with the Tesseract. So, knowing what we know, it's like, okay, this blue cube that we're kind of familiar with opens portals, we know now, is an energy source. It collapsed the whole shield base. What the fuck is this fool up to? And we really don't get a hint of that until later on when he has his meeting with the other. And we'll get there, though, because I think the first thing that happens after we see the collapse of the base is
It's montage time.
It's montage
It's
time.
getting the team together.
It's you son of a
gets
bitch,
their
I'm in.
part. Yeah, everybody gets their part.
I think is it Tony first or
They hit up Tony first.
okay because he's like
just
doing some
lighting-
shit underwater.
He's lighting up Stark Tower to be self-sustaining for the next year at least.
At least it's
And
prototype.
he's just going to hang out with Pepper, and Agent Coulson just keeps trying to call him. He's ignoring it, and then he just shows up. He just shows up in the elevator and is like, "Hey, we need to talk now."
Yes, and Pepper knows way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he ends up telling Tony like, look, like this is a matter of not even just national security, like world security,
Galactic security.
galactic security.
And this is totally kind of changing the scope. Like we've seen Captain America, we've seen both of the Iron Mans, and we've seen Thor. So Thor, yeah, is this otherworldly piece. Captain America is a historical quote unquote piece, and then Iron Man 1 and 2 are happening in present day. And then the Avengers combines all of this.
Right.
So we haven't seen all of this at the same time. So now we're seeing these different soldiers and superheroes and gods and aliens all in one.
Yeah.
And what's great, and I think we talked about it during the Thor episode, is like that otherworldly type of feel, like going to Asgard and going to Jotunheim and these other dimensions and the Rainbow Bridge and portals and stuff like that really kind of got us ready for the crazy shit that was going to be in the Avengers as far as like interdimensional travel. Thor kind of wet your feet with that. Mm-hmm. So when it happened in this movie, you weren't like taken aback. You were like, well, yeah, there's a universe.
Marvel's really good at doing that. Like, they give you a piece, just like kind of what we were talking about before we started with the Captain Marvel thing. Like, they give you a piece, and it's enough to further the story without having to explain a lot.
Right.
And that's really cool. And going back to what you said earlier, Ed, when you were talking about how, like, all these characters were already introduced to you, like, them meeting makes it that much more cooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see the solo films, and you're like, all right, this person's really cool, and then once they get together, you're like, oh, this is actually happening.
Well, yeah, and so we
This is a real
get
thing.
we get the Tony recruitment, and then isn't it Natasha Romanoff who has the task of going to get the Hulk,
Yeah, Bruce.
Dr. Banner.
Dr. Banner?
You got the big guy.
So she goes. I think he's in Bogota, maybe somewhere, some other country.
He's in Russia.
No, she's in Russia. She goes
Oh,
to get Banner
okay.
in like Bogota or something.
He's in Calcutta.
That's the same thing.
Okay.
Look at a map. And she convinces him to come strictly because of his research, right? Because he is a smart motherfucker. He's got like 7 PhDs. Mm-hmm. But she successfully recruits him, and then Nick Fury, he approaches Cap, right? Who's beating the shit out of a punching bag. There's a straight up a post-credit scene from Captain America, the First Avenger, where he just kind of gives him the mission. And I love this because at this point, none of the, I want to call them the big four, because they have powers, right? Iron Man, Hulk, Cap, and Thor. None of those guys have interacted yet, right? We have Natasha, Hawkeye obviously is working for Loki right now. Mm-hmm. So the first meeting we get between any of the big four is in Germany, right? Because they welcome Hulk and Cap onto the helicarrier, which by the way is pretty badass. I mean, fuck carriers on the water. Let's make this bitch fly, and also it's invisible, so awesome.
Everything all in one.
Yeah. It's great. And so they find out where Loki is. We get a pretty gruesome scene where they take that dude's eye. He uses that little fucking thing and like takes his eye out
so that he can scan.
So he can scan his eye. It was just talking about, because I think from here on out is where the movie's like kind of moved away a little bit from like direct violence. We were talking about in the solo movies how like in Captain America, dudes are getting murked left and right. They're getting thrown into propellers. They're getting thrown out of airplanes. Yeah. Iron Man's blowing fools up all the time. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you know, it kind of got a little more friendly as far as showing stuff like that. This was, like, the last thing I can remember where it was really like, damn, this is fucked up.
Like, visceral. Just like, oh.
Yeah.
Just in this movie, right?
No, in, like, the rest of the Marvel and the MCU.
Oh.
You got something? Well, I guess we can't go. I don't want to spoil.
I don't want to get into the next one. I guess we can talk about it later.
Okay.
But
I would just say it's less.
It's tame.
Like I would say it's probably there's something like that maybe in every film, but it's less in your face.
Yeah.
With what it is like showing blood.
Like from this point on,
it's like Star Wars,
Yeah,
Yes.
they're good about that too.
Yeah.
Like Marvel's really good about.
From this point on,
keeping
we're
it
killing
PG.
things like aliens and robots, and
Yeah.
so it's not a bigger. It's not as emotionally jarring when it's an alien or something we don't care about.
Yeah.
But like this dude getting his eye cut out in front of all these people, and Loki's just really enjoying himself. Like he's so sadistic in this movie, and Cap is there to stop him. Right? He says the last time I was in Germany and someone stood above everyone else, we ended up disagreeing. And that's when Tony comes in, right? So this is the first meeting we get between Tony and Steve Rogers.
Yeah, between all three of these guys, because Cap is fighting what he doesn't know to be a god.
Yep.
And the Iron Man's intro coming in.
Comes in with AC/DC.
It's super cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dude, it's so
Always
awesome.
AC/DC.
Every time.
Because he overrides, probably has Jarvis override the PA on the Quinjet.
Yeah.
And yeah, AC/DC comes in. That's a pretty awesome scene. And to me, this is huge because if you think, Tony has grown up hearing about Captain America since he was a small child because his dad, Howard, as we just discussed in the last episode, was instrumental in Cap successfully getting through the serum, right? Like Howard Stark was a huge part of that, and he spent most of his life looking for Cap after he went into the ice. Mm-hmm. So like Tony gets to meet this guy who he probably has mixed feelings about. Later on, we learn that he absolutely does, because his dad, in his eyes, favored a dead Capsicle more than his own son. So they capture Loki, they get him on the Quinjet, and then one of my favorite lines in the movie, because Tom Hiddleston is just so great, is there's lightning, and Cap asks him, "What, are you afraid of a little lightning?" And he's just like, "I'm not overly fond of what follows." Because he knows. He knows who's coming.
All the intros are really cool. Like,
was
just
gonna
thinking
say,
about that,
yeah.
they're super cool.
Did you guys see this in theaters?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, I did actually.
I did not. I was in basic. I was when that came out, so I didn't actually get to see it. It was like a couple days. I went a couple days, so I didn't actually get to see it in theaters, and was real sad because I watched it on like an airplane way later in life, and was just like, "This is so fucking cool!" But it's on like a 5-inch screen.
But it's just so.
I was gonna say
go
that
ahead.
part.
Yeah.
Like, how hyped were you? Just like seeing the lightning come, you're just like, "Oh shit!"
Like you knew, like at first you maybe could have chalked it up to like there's a storm, but when Black Widow's like, "Where is this coming from?" I was like, "Oh," and then the way that Loki's whole demeanor changed, he was just like, "Oh shit."
Oh, great.
And it, also to keep in mind, right, because the Bifrost is broken, so Odin himself had to send Thor to Earth with the dark magic. Just a nerd factoid right there.
I guess, how do you know that? Like, get into that a little bit. Cause
so in the end of Thor,
I didn't
he has to
correlate the two.
break the Rambro Bridge.
I remember that.
Because he's destroying Jotunheim.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not repaired yet. And so once Thor does come down and he takes Loki out of the Quinjet and, like, down on the ground, he's like, how much of the dark magic did Father have to muster to get you here? And so it's just kind of, because I don't think the Rainbow Bridge gets repaired until the Dark World.
Dark World, yeah.
So there's that. And then, so they're on the ground and Thor's like, what the fuck, Loki?
Abandon this poisonous dream. Like, get rid of, like, what you're thinking. Like, yeah, you have all of these imagined slights in your head that you think we hated you. You think you're cast out. You think, like, you are an outcast. Dude, no.
None of that.
None of that. Like, you are putting yourself in this position when none of us, like, hate you. You just keep fucking with us.
Yeah. And you're taking it out on Earth.
Yeah.
Like, Earth's under my protection. Stop fucking with it. Right? And then that's when Tony comes in and he's like, don't take my stuff. And then we get like at the big, like, you know, like a foreshadow of like Civil War going on here. They're like fighting each other.
Yeah.
And Cap comes and he's like, stop being children. Like,
he's being dad.
Yeah, he was being dad.
Yeah.
And we get to see actually how strong that vibranium shield is up against something otherworldly.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, it's the strongest metal on Earth, but we see the effect of Thor
when he power slams it.
power slams
Hell
the
yeah.
hammer on it,
Put the hammer down.
and it just creates a shockwave,
Yeah.
which is awesome because we get to see that so many more times throughout this MCU, them working together. But that was like the first time that we had seen.
That's really cool. That's another correlation that I didn't make the first time I saw it.
That's what's great about the rewatches. You were saying earlier, you get to
Yeah.
see things as you've never seen them before because you know what is coming and what you've seen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny too to watch like Avengers, this film now after having seen Endgame, which I won't get into, trying to limit the spoilers for movies after the ones we talk about. But just so many things you can see on rewatches that you wouldn't catch the first time.
Yeah.
So they get Loki back to the helicarrier, and he's walking through that hallway with that fucking smirk on his face when he walks past Dr. Banner, right? Who in this movie is played by Mark Ruffalo, by the way. Mm-hmm. I don't think we said that. Because the Edward Norton Hulk, I guess, we just like the adopted stepchild.
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
It's canon, but it's never talked about, and it's not on Disney+.
We don't talk about Ed Norton's...
I didn't think he was bad.
I think it was bad either.
For the time, and yeah.
I don't think it would be harmonious in the MCU if he was still playing the Hulk.
No.
I've heard like rumors after rumor that he is just hard to work with.
Oh. I don't know. I just think that it's been Mark Ruffalo for so long that it'd be hard to see anything different.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this with Rhodey, right? Because he was recast.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So then, they're trying to figure out what the hell Loki wants. And they also are trying to find the Tesseract. Trying to find Clint. Trying to find Selvig. Still with no idea of what the plan is.
Yeah. And they reference it in the movie, but I was also thinking this, like, watching it for the first time, I was like, it was, like, kind of easy for them to get him. Like...
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it a little simple? They just went to go get him.
He didn't escape when they were all fighting each other.
Yeah.
No.
He was just hanging out. And then now he's on this helicarrier. Like, what's his plan? He's the god of mischief, so right. What does he have planned?
He planned to be caught.
Exactly.
Right? It's like funny. It's like, because Nick Fury, when they're all fighting, like when they're all arguing, Tony, Cap, Thor, and Brett Banner, they're all arguing, and Nick Fury's like, why is Loki the only one who's acting like he wants to be here?
Yeah.
And it's true. Because he obviously, like you said, God of Mischief, has a plan. And they figure out that he wants to unleash the Hulk on the helicarrier. But this is also going on like while Tony is finding out what secrets S.H.I.E.L.D. is keeping from them. Mm-hmm. And Cap, doesn't know how to use technology, so he goes the old-fashioned way and starts breaking into fucking closed doors and shit.
Yeah.
And they all come to the same conclusion that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been using the Tesseract to make weapons. So Cap hates that. Tony is just Tony, so he also hates that.
Well, he hates that too, because, he got rid of his old weapons, his whole weapons, gig, and so he doesn't want that to happen. It's like, oh, that seems to work out very well whenever you prepare for a war that hasn't happened yet.
And I also think a lot of it with Tony has to do with his ego, though, too, because it's like Banner was telling him, it's like if they're using it to do energy, like why wouldn't they go and include Tony in this? And he was lied to, and I just don't think, knowing the Stark lineage, that, they can take being lied to or used in this matter. Like, used by Nick Fury in an agenda where on the sly we're doing this other shit and we're not going to tell you about it. So I think with Tony it's more ego. For Cap it's just that fucking moral fiber that, that Boy Scout mentality.
He's a Boy Scout.
Yep. And there's just a lovely scene when Clint and the rest of the people who are rogue against S.H.I.E.L.D. come and they blow up the engine. And right before that happens, like, Cap and Iron Man are about to throw down. And he's like, go put on the suit. We'll go a couple rounds. And he's like, I will. He's like, go put on the suit. And then the shit blows up and they're on the ground. He's like, put on the suit. Like, put on the suit. We got work to do.
Put on the fucking suit.
Put on the fucking suit. I'm sure if there was an F-bomb in there, that's where you could put it. Put on the fucking suit. But then we got even more havoc just going on in that scene, right? Banner does indeed become the Hulk.
Dude, it's fucking scary. Like,
it's terrifying.
It's super scary.
When he's
like
chasing
when
that.
we're looking at giants in most media, like huge fucking barbarian mongoloid motherfuckers. They're huge, but they're slow, right? They're crazy strong. Nobody can touch them in strength, but
they're slow. It's like Ant-Man when he goes big.
Exactly. So that is not the case with the Hulk. He is so fucking fast.
Bro.
That shit is terrifying.
It defies physics.
Nuclear ability.
Yeah, that's
gamma radiation at its best.
Yeah.
And when he's just chasing Black Widow through the bowels of the fucking helicarrier, it's terrifying. It's dark. It's confined spaces. It's just makes me really claustrophobic.
And that's the first time that we see the other guy,
Right.
the Hulk.
And isn't, because I know he chases Black Widow around for a while, but isn't that one of the first scenes that you see him and Thor throw down too?
They do, because he's gonna kill Nat, and then Thor comes out, and like at first in the fight, like Thor is like trying to like reason with the Hulk. He's like getting him in like headlocks, and he's like trying to talk to him, and then finally he's like, you know what, hammer time.
He's going easy.
And then you also get that scene where he tries to pick up the hammer and can't, which is...
He's just digging himself into the ground as he's trying to lift it. And I love that. I love that because obviously we know that you need to be worthy to carry it, but just to see it in action, that like not anyone can just lift this, and someone as strong as the Hulk can't even get it off the ground either.
Yeah, and that, again, there's Marvel building up the like... I don't want to say it without giving anything away.
So don't.
Like,
I know exactly where you're going though.
I know, but it's like the severity of
like the gravity of it.
Nobody can pick this up.
Yep.
Yeah,
like the seriousness in which that statement is. Like only those who are worthy can lift this, and like you see Hulk try to pick it up later on in the series. You see other people try to lift it, and it's just not happening. So it makes things that may or may not happen in the future just that much more great.
May or may not.
So then they throw an F-35 at him, at the Hulk, and he messed it up.
Those aren't even good anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All they do is just cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I love it because he jumps out of the fucking helicarrier and the dude tries to eject and he catches him and throws him.
And he's just like, nah.
So we found out this was the plan all along, right? That Loki wanted to be caught. He had a transponder on the scepter. Barton was able to find him. They essentially almost downed the ship. You got Tony trying to fix the engine while Cap is holding off the bad guys where the controls are.
Seems to run on some form of electricity.
I love that.
I do too.
I love that.
Fantastic comic relief.
What are we looking at? Just,
Like, I'm trying my best, guys.
Yeah.
I'm out of my fucking element.
Look, man, I'm from the 1940s. I just woke up, dude. And then we lose probably a fan favorite, right? Agent Coulson, son of Cole, gets killed by Loki. And that is kind of what eventually brings the Avengers together, because at this point they've been squabbling the whole time.
They're scattered.
They are, because
they're beaten, they're scattered, their mind is not in the right spot.
Right. Thor gets ejected out. Black Widow is able to subdue Hawkeye and bring him back like out of the mind control.
Yeah.
Hulk, becomes Banner again, but it's funny because the janitor guy finds him and he's like, "Are you an alien?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Well then, you have a condition."
You got a condition, son.
It's great. So the death of Coulson kind of brings them together. They go ahead and fly off to New York. They figure out what Loki's going to do. He's going to open a portal off of the Stark Tower and bring in an army to conquer Earth. So Tony, first thing he needs is a new suit because he's trying to fix the propeller. He got all fucked up.
Yeah.
And then behind him, Hawkeye, Cap, and Black Widow come in the Quinjet.
And that's all we get. We see him going up to his tower to get one of his suits and have this little talk with Loki.
And we get to hear the Avengers, to hear him say it. It's like, who's going to stop me? He's like, oh, the Avengers.
The Avengers.
It's like, we're kind of a team. We have a Hulk.
Yeah, this is a classic Tony Stark. Every line he says in that conversation with Loki at the top of the tower is amazing.
Yeah. He's all the while having a drink. He's just having a drink.
Yeah. He's just having a drink the whole time, and then Loki is just like, not worried about it at all. He's like, whatever, I know this guy's powerful. I'm going to turn him. And then the Avengers are going to fight Tony. And you just see the scepter just dink right on his little
arc reactor
in his chest, and he's like,
performance issues.
this usually works.
And that's when he throws him out, and we get a pretty cool suit-up scene.
Yeah.
set up scene where he's fallen and the suit comes to him and he gets in it. So at this point, we're still kind of not having a plan here, and you just kind of see what's happening. This army comes in. There's a lot of them. They have weapons. The big ass flying monster things come in.
Flying worm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the Chitauri army.
Right.
Is here.
So they're kind of keeping it contained a little bit, but then that's when Thor arrives and Banner. Banner comes in and he reveals his secret, right? That he's always angry. So he go ahead and he just punches this fucking thing.
He just punches this big flying worm to death.
Yeah, it died.
Yeah, that's the coolest scene in the movie.
He just turns around and hulks out, punches it, and then there's like the circular scene of like all of them together.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like you see him because in the whole ship scene, when what was it called, the carrier?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
like when they were on the carrier, you're really thinking, like, oh, this guy's the Hulk, and he's just a loose cannon, right? So the fact that he shows up and they're all under duress, and he's like, no, it's not that big of a deal, like, let me fix this.
Yeah.
And then you see him handle it, and then jumps down. You get the signature music for the first time, and they're all like, they're all circled up, and they start to develop the game plan. Like, that's
it's a big moment, and I love that too, because it's Tony who says this. He says, call it out, Cap.
Yeah.
Like, almost deferring to Cap as the unofficial leader of this team. And I love that. And Cap has a plan. He's like, Stark, go up top. Thor, bottleneck it with your lightning. Light the bastards up. You two stay on the ground. You call out strays and patterns.
Yeah,
Tony, keep them in here, and we'll keep the fight right here. And it's just great. And they all go do their shit.
Everybody filled their role.
Yeah, and Hulk smash.
Smash.
Yeah, that's it.
That's cool.
It was awesome.
That's that's literally what you wanted from this entire movie.
Yeah.
To see all of them at their peak.
Yep.
And to just go out and wreck, to try to take care of business. Like, that's what Tony said. He's like, if we don't have anything to defend, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
Right.
It was the coolest scene that, like, Marvel had brought to us so far. Like, we knew, like, everybody in the audience was like, this is a new thing, and we're all here for it. Yeah. It was kind of like the first time I remember, like, Iron Man was the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one that came out, and seeing that, it was just completely mind blowing. Like, in the theater, like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and then they just up the ante, and here
they
we go.
do that like every time,
better, and they kind of did,
did.
without getting into the other movies. Like, I'm sure you guys will talk about the second and third, fourth.
Avengers.
Yeah, like all the different Avengers movies. Like, there's that iconic scene, and that was this one.
one
in Avengers.
And there's one in every one of them.
Yep, 100%.
And so, they figure out that they can close the portal, but not before the Security Council decides they're going to nuke Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who made that call. That was...
I think, how OG is Nick Fury? Like, the dude was trying to take off, and he shot him with a bazooka.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy's trying to take off from a carrier, and he just has a fucking rocket. He's like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
He just fucking pulls out a stinger. Like,
we'll fix this.
But the nuke comes anyways, and Tony's like, "Hey, I know exactly where to put this. Don't close the portal yet." And this is
kind of on a time crunch. Like they can close the portal. Like this is what I was talking about with Captain America that we didn't have in Captain America. It was very whimsical, that movie.
Right.
And there is a sense of doom. There's a sense of, oh, this is like, we need to do something now.
Right.
Yeah, the scene we were talking about a second ago, you guys haven't talked about yet the other guys coming back out of the trance from the septic.
Oh,
right?
well, I mean, I talked about Clint coming out.
And then
Selvig, because he gets, like, knocked out.
And because he's the one that opened the portal, so then once he came back to his human state, then they started to figure out, like, okay, we got to close this, right?
It.
So then the table started to turn there, and then you were talking about, like, Iron Man taking the nuke.
Right.
That scene, when I was in the theater, like, that's when I started holding my breath. I was just sitting there and just kind of watching, like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
No, it has that, what you were talking about, that Captain America vs. Avenger lacked, is, like, peril, danger.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't sure what was going to happen. And this is a reoccurring theme. We saw it in the first Iron Man, where Tony's ready to sacrifice himself to kill Ironmonger. And now in this one, he doesn't know if he's coming back from putting that nuke up there, but he's going to take it. So just more evolution of the character of Tony Stark in the sense that, like, when we first meet him in Iron Man 1, he's this egotistical prick. And he's just, and his character is just building. And this is a huge prime example of, like, where we're going with his character.
Well, and we had no idea. I mean, I don't know if you guys didn't have any idea. I had no idea if this was going to continue. I didn't know about any kind of phases or any kind of plans after this movie, because this is the culmination of 4 different movies.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this could be it. Like, Iron Man could die here. Like, he could absolutely die here. I don't know anything that's going to happen past this. So it was, like you were saying, just towards his character, like building towards his character. We didn't know that because I thought absolutely this could be it. This is going to be the movie. They've built it up. This is the 5th movie in it. Cool, they did it. Let alone, I mean, I didn't think they were going to go for 22 movies. But so that's what I was thinking when I was looking at it.
And they could, like, forgetting everything we know that happens after, if they were to wrap everything up right there, tie in a nice little bow,
that'd been fine.
People would have been happy with
Exactly.
it. Like, it would have been awesome, but yeah, and they kept going, and usually, movies, TV shows that usually just keep going and going and going, and it usually gets to be pretty ridiculous,
right.
But they carried it out all
I've
the way
said
through,
it
and it was
time and time
awesome.
again. Sequels, by definition, are inferior films, and that's not the case here in the MCU.
No.
The formula here was just too strong. And so he takes it up there, he blows up the Chitauri ship, and it deactivates all the Chitauri on Earth, and then he barely makes it back through the portal as it closes, and Hulk catches him. It's really sweet.
It's really sweet.
Thor was ready. He had the hammer swinging. I just want y'all to know. Thor was also ready to get him.
They do a really good job in all of the movies where they have the characters supporting each other,
right?
And no matter how short of a moment it is,
yeah, they have each other's back.
Everybody plays their part, and looking out for the team. It's pretty selfless, and I think that makes it really cool.
It makes it so you want to root for these guys.
Yeah.
Like, even though they have their own little qualms, like Cap may be too Boy Scouty for some people, Tony may be an asshole to some people, Black Widow may have secrets like of her past that you're not cool with, Hawkeye can be a dick, but like with these things and the way they love each other, and love maybe is going to grow, maybe not so much in this film, but the care they have for one another makes you want to root for them.
They trust each other.
Yeah.
Like they every hero should have his flaw, and they all have theirs, but they all trust each other. They know what they can do, and they got it done against insurmountable odds.
Right. And so they, stop the army, they close the portal, and they take Loki into custody, who wants that drink now. And like I said, it just makes me think of the future.
The other comic relief moment when Hulk is smashing him around, that's another one that's just really good in this film, and it's the first time you get to hear Hulk speak.
Besides
so
saying,
that makes it
even
better.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I was like, we can't leave this, last part of the film without talking about Loki just yelling at Thor, calling him a mindless beast.
The Hulk.
Or to the Hulk, just calling him a mindless beast. Like, how dare you talk to me like this? And he grabs him, just fucking smashes him.
Like a
looks at him, smashes him some more.
Mm-hmm.
Puny God.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love that.
That is like, that's probably my favorite scene.
It's great to know that Hulk has a vocabulary outside of like, and Hulk and Smash. That's about all we've heard at this point. So it's really cool to kind of hear that and to see him just embarrass Loki like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we know how proud Loki is, like the pride that he carries inside for himself. And so this does wrap up the film essentially. Like, we get to see the Avengers going their separate ways at the end.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Thor needed the dark magic to get there. They now have the Tesseract, which is
how they get back.
That's how they get back, because that's limitless power.
Yep.
So that's what allows them to actually get back.
Because he takes Loki back to Asgard, right?
Yep.
And then what's going on Earth? Right
I mean,
now.
pretty much like, there's like, the Avengers are out now. It's like, there's this team of heroes and they saved us.
Okay, yeah.
But there's also a divisiveness there where people are like, this was their fight. And like, collateral damage and You got people that love them, people that aren't sure about them.
Yeah, because I
mean, Stan Lee cameo in there.
Before this, it's just like, yeah, we have Iron Man, but that's like, we just have Iron Man right there, and we don't have this whole team. Like Cap commands these cops at one point to like, hey, you guys need to set a perimeter. We need people in these buildings. And they're like, why the fuck should I listen to you?
And he does some badass shit.
Another great comic relief scene.
He does some badass shit, and then the cop just walks away and repeats everything Cap says. He's like, I need a perimeter down on 38th. Like, we need people in those buildings.
Clearly, we need to listen to this guy.
So now we know that they are a team. Mm-hmm. They are a group, and they're just out there. And the senators, whatever the leaders of
the council members
are just like, where the hell are they? Why'd you let Loki get away? Where is everybody else?
Right.
And he's just like, I don't know.
They've earned a vacation.
And I don't know. I know snitch.
Yeah. What if this happens again? Well, then they know they'll come back.
Yeah,
They'll know we need them. So that's just kind of how the movie ends. Yeah. We have a couple post credits here. One is the shawarma scene where they're eating the shawarma.
You guys had shawarma?
Remind me.
So like when Tony awakes from his fall from wherever he was in the portal, he's like, "There's a good shawarma joint around here. You guys want? You guys ever had shawarma?"
Yeah.
And so one of the post credit scene is all of the team eating shawarma.
Okay.
I was asking, have you guys had shawarma?
No, I have not had shawarma. No, I have had shawarma.
Yeah.
Did you shawarma in the deed with me?
In the deed, not with you, but I had it.
Oh, okay.
That's where I had it too.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, go to the source. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd have it in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have it in New York. That's a international.
It's diverse.
Yeah, that's diverse as hell.
The other post-credit scene here is a glimpse into the villain of the future.
Yeah, and this was a really important scene where, like, you don't know the magnitude of it, you keep watching, and then you go back and watch the movie again, you're like, wow, I didn't realize how important this was.
Right.
So break it down, Andrew. Break down that scene.
I'm pretty sure this was the one where they go out in space, and Thanos is sitting in the chair, and he was still CGI before.
And he was still super purple.
Yeah, exactly. That's before. Isn't that before they cast Josh Brolin?
Yeah, no, I think he still voices
That was
him.
his voice still, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't his motion capture yet.
And that's kind of cool, like when you go back and watch that, because it looks different than what you're getting in the future movies. So I don't know.
But it's still just that tease of like how his assistant is telling him like to,
hey, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have to work on something else.
Well, and looking. Like, you know, just watching it, looking back at it, there's always little things that you can pick out. Mm-hmm. So that Chitauri, whatever guy was saying, that humans are not as weak as we thought. They're unruly, so they're not able to be ruled.
Yeah.
And to fight them is to court death. Now, what that means, of course, is just like, if you go against them, you're gonna die. But it means something, it's a little extra for comic book readers.
For comic book readers especially, I know exactly where Ed's going with this, because what the MCU did was they kind of, I don't want to say humanized, but gave the audience a reason to kind of see and relate to what Thanos was doing later on in these movies, as far as like...
Wait, that one scene already?
No,
like
no, because what Ed is mentioning is that that line by itself, to court death, in the comic books, Thanos wants to eliminate half of life on the universe because he wants to bang Death. Death is a woman.
The goddess Death. He wants to court her.
Oh, okay.
And so by giving her all of these lives is like taking a girl out to a fancy dinner.
So he wants to court death. And that's why he wants to kill everybody. So it's a lot easier later in movies just to say he wants to kill half of everything. Yeah. Just because he wants to, he wants to, as opposed to bringing in an external, even higher figure.
Right, and I want to go into depth with that when we do get to Infinity War. We'll talk a lot about that, because I think the MCU did a good job with what they ended up doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that post-credit scene, like not only just having Thanos is like, because I don't think that they knew even. Like they might have had a rough idea of where they were going, but it was all going to be dependent upon the success of the Avengers film. And once they knew they could go somewhere, I think that's when they started mapping out what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. At this point, this is like a comic book reader tease, straight up. Mm-hmm. And they knew they were going to use Thanos, they just didn't know how yet. And we get our first glimpse at essentially the villain of this entire 22 film arc.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the post-credits scene there. And I think that we really do need to get to Hot Route.
It's Hot Route time?
Cool.
Blue 17! Blue 17!
I don't. What is Hot Route?
Hot route! Red 7, red 7, red 7! Hot route! That's what we call a sack lunch! Nom, 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 nom.
Okay, let's see, my hot route. I'll go pretty simple with it. So, who's your favorite character that you met so far? So, like, I guess, who's your favorite character in the series? Who's your favorite Avenger? And if you were in control of the movie and you could do it over, would you do anything differently? Is there anything different that you would add or take away? So I guess kind of ask two. So the first one, just who's your favorite?
For me, Ed already knows the answer to this. It's always going to be Captain America.
Okay.
I'm a big Cap guy. I love Cap. I don't really need to go into depth with that because I think every episode we do, I talk about Captain America and why I love him. But it's definitely Cap. And with this movie, particularly, like, anything I would change, I guess, there's not a whole lot. Because at the time, it was such an anomaly and so good. And the only thing I would change is because of the benefit of hindsight.
Okay.
Right? I would change certain little like things that maybe you won't even see because I know where the series is heading. Because I know what happens in the future. Mm-hmm. But like just as a movie without knowing what the plan is, leave it alone.
Yeah. Okay. I'm into that. What about you, Ed?
I think of all the Avengers that are there right now, Thor. Absolutely Thor. He's just dope. And I love his hammer, meow meow.
Meow meow.
Meow meow.
His hammer, meow meow, is super cool. But I've always loved mythology. Norse mythology, cool. Greek mythology, Roman mythology. That is my shit. So seeing that on the big screen has just been one of my favorite things ever.
That's pretty good.
And changing anything, I don't think that we got a lot of, like, loss in the movie. Like, we lost Coulson. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like that was a really huge blow to them. Yeah. And this is just me personally. I don't think that was a very huge blow to them. Like, yeah, we know he was obsessed mm-hmm. with Steve. And
I am Coulson.
And we know that he believed that this could work, that this was going to work.
Right.
But I don't feel like it was a big enough loss that it would, bring them all together, that he was kind of the linchpin that held everything together.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. I like the questions, and because of your question, and mostly because of his answer, what loss would you have wanted to see for both of you? Nice. Like, what do you think is a loss that would maybe put it into even more dire circumstances?
And sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I like them all. I don't want to lose anybody.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, that's because you root for them so much. Like, I don't want to lose anybody.
Well, and I say this still thinking back to, like, I'm not sure if this movie is going to go forward.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is.
That's kind of how we have to play it.
Exactly. So, like, if Tony Stark did die, if this did end with Tony Stark dying, that would have been that kind of loss. And it, like you said, wrapped up with a nice little bow. Just, that's the series. That's the whole movie arc. That's what I could see happening. But because it extended for so many other movies, I understand why you can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't want to lose anybody.
That's fine. That's an acceptable answer.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to lose anybody.
Fine.
I don't want to lose anybody.
Now, Ed, I think it's your turn to hot route us.
Oh, shit.
Oh, poop.
I guess my hot route is, putting ourselves back in 2012. We don't know what's going to happen after this. We don't know how it's going to progress. Not sure if you guys know, like, specific other Marvel characters, or because it wasn't really that big before this. I mean, they had their comics, they had some games, they had some different series, but it wasn't, like, worldwide. So if there would be any other Marvel characters that you would want to see in the Avengers, who would it have been? Like, if you wanted to, get the montage of collecting peeps.
Do you want this one first, or can I take it?
Go ahead.
So, where does this movie take place mainly?
New York.
New York. Who is a hero in New York that's an Avenger?
Daredevil.
No. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But we've gotten the Tobey movies, right? I think this is in the middle of the Garfield films.
I think it is. And they
don't have the rights.
Yeah, they're having a weird battle with Sony.
I mean, that's such a bummer.
So I didn't know. I knew that he couldn't be in it.
Yeah.
But I knew that he was. I mean, he's a Marvel property.
Yeah.
So that would have been awesome to see Spotty just zipping around doing shit with the team. It just maybe not even part of the team, just popped up and he was like, "Hey guys, I want to help."
Just one frame.
Yeah.
Any sort of cameo would be cool.
Yeah.
Just to hint towards it, because everybody loves Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's great. Everybody loves Spider-Man. I would have loved to see. I mean, in the same vein as that, they didn't have the rights to it. The X-Men.
That's what I was gonna. That's what I was gonna go with.
Ooh.
But at the same time, same situation.
It's the exact same situation.
But for me, that's too much. For me, that's too much. Just a character, just Spider-Man. Go ahead.
Mine is also too much, but I still want it. Maybe not in this movie, but just since we're on the topic of just Marvel characters that didn't have their fair shot, I just want to see somebody do the Fantastic Four right.
Just do it right.
Just
yeah.
do it.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Did you watch the newest one? I didn't watch the newest one.
I mean, it's got Michael B. Jordan.
Fell
And
asleep.
Miles
Miles Teller.
It's got good cast.
Miles Teller's great.
Yeah.
It's corny.
So is Michael B. Jordan.
It's
Remember
it's rushed and.
Remember we were in Seattle for that weekend for Warped Tour and Dirty Heads, and Gator and all those guys came out, and they're like, "We're gonna go see a movie." We're like, "Hey, go see Fantastic Four. We heard it's great."
We heard it's great. I don't remember that, but it sounds like something.
We were like, "Yeah, we heard it's great. Go see Fantastic Four."
It got really bad reviews, and I didn't dislike the one where Captain America was.
Well, I was gonna say,
Human Torch.
Look, if you just want a better role later in life, just be the Human Torch.
Straight up.
Michael B. Jordan.
Be a failed hero. Look at Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, then he's Deadpool.
Yeah, you just got to take one huge fucking L.
Yeah, just take an L. Look
I didn't even
at
think about
Daredevil, Ben Affleck, Batman.
Deadpool would be another cool one
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know, any of those. For me, Fantastic Four.
That'd be
I dig
awesome.
it.
I'd like that. I like good hot routes, guys. And with that, well, that's the end of the episode.
That's the end of phase 1.
That's the end of phase 1, right? We're getting to phase 2 here in the coming weeks. We'll see. So, as always, I'm Chris.
I'm Ed.
Thanks for stopping by, Andrew.
Thanks for having me again. This was awesome.
And this has been Almost Agreeable. Well, what do you know? Another episode down. You can catch all new episodes every week on Thursdays. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Almost Agreeable.